welcome into RedRaiders.com. I'm Shannon Wilson, and this is Dawn Williams. And this Saturday, the Red Raiders will kick off spring football with their first scrimmage in Midland. And Dawn, what are a couple things that we should expect out of the Red Raiders this year?
Well, I think one of the things that I'm going to be interested to see is the David Gibbs defense, which Red Raiders have another new defensive coordinator, which has been pretty much an annual thing for the last 8 years or so. David Gibbs comes in from Midland, and you know, it's interesting because the Red Raiders have not had any spring practice open up to this point, and yet I feel like I know what I expect to see out of David Gibbs' defense because he's been very open about what he believes in, what his concepts are, those sorts of things. He's already given us a good idea of what to expect. I think he might have raised some eyebrows a few weeks ago when he said that if you come to practice, you're going to see us stripping the football because that's all we're going to work on. And that kind of dropped my jaw a little bit because he said he's not going to be hammering guys about the fundamentals of tackling because he's realistic. He's been in the game for a lot of years. He knows it's played outside the tackle box these days. Defensive guys are put in a lot of one-on-one open field tackling situations. It's not easy to do. And so he feels like one of the ways that you got to make up the difference is by forcing turnovers and takeaways, by practicing that, not to the exclusion of all other things, but certainly just harping on that in practice. And every time we've talked to the players this spring, they've been consistent about saying, yeah, we're stripping the football constantly, end of every play, stripping the football, one guy holding the guy up on a tackle, the other guy's trying to rip it out. And the offensive players have kind of along with that said, yeah, the defensive guys are annoying us because we've never had people trying to strip the football as much as our defensive players are doing. The other thing I think that's interesting about David Gibbs' defense, his philosophy defensively is he's going to play a lot of zone coverage on the back end. And he told me, he said, there will be times when you'll come in here once a week and say, how come you gave up how come you gave up 400 yards passing and it was all 10 yards passing? Here's the thing with him. He's willing to give up a bunch of short 10-yard passes with the trade-off being he thinks his guys in his zone coverage will be able to get come up with a lot of interceptions. I mean, he spent a decade in the NFL. He learned from a lot of good offensive minds. He said, I'm going to teach our DBs what quarterbacks are looking for. I'm going to teach our DBs what the quarterback's reads are, where he should be looking and where he should be throwing the football against whatever defense we're running. And so he feels like eventually the defensive backs will kind of catch on, and you'll get a lot of picks and a lot of football going back the other way. Now, the big key to that, though, is going to be getting pressure up front. I mean, the defense that he describes, I think, is real similar to what Bob Stoops and Mike Stoops had a ton of success with back a decade or so ago when they had those great defenses in Oklahoma. They got great pressure from the front seven. They played a lot of zone on the back end where safeties were watching the quarterback's eyes, and they came up with a lot of interceptions. I think that's kind of what David Gibbs envisions doing, but there's going to be a premium placed on guys like Pete Robertson and Brandon Jackson and defensive tackles getting that pressure so the quarterback will be rushed into making some bad passes.
And of course, Don, another thing on folks' minds here is the quarterback situation with both Davis Webb and Patrick Mahomes going down at the very end of the year last year.
Hey, we made it like 2 or 3 minutes without talking about the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Like proud of us.
That's going to be obviously another huge storyline because you had at the end of the year last year, or really early in the year last year, Davis Webb got hurt. He hurt the shoulder against Oklahoma State, actually the left shoulder. He hurt his ankle against TCU in Week 8, and then you didn't see him again. And Patrick Mahomes really took advantage of that and was very effective in the last month. You know, those last, 3 games or 4 games? He had 14 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions. And so he generated a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement among the fan base who and I think there are a lot of fans who feel like this is a race that is already over. But I think they're being pretty premature there because Patrick Mahomes has only done it for about a month's time, really, as a college football quarterback. Is he going to continue to ascend, you know, on a nice smooth plane and not have any rough spots? If he is, he's not like most young quarterbacks. So I think he still will have some tough Saturdays where he has to where he has to prove himself, prove his resilience when things don't go all that well. And then on the flip side, you have Davis Webb, who last time we saw him was kind of down. He did not have a good sophomore season, but he's also a guy who's kind of built in a lot of college football experience now over a couple of years, and he could very well be in a position where he's ready to take off. Now, the good thing I think for both of those guys is they've gotten a lot of time this spring. At the end of last year, remember, you heard unsourced reports about Patrick Mahomes is going to have wrist surgery, and Davis Webb is going to miss the spring. And of course, neither of those things happened. Patrick Mahomes has only missed one practice this spring because of baseball, and Davis Webb's been out there every day. And and Davis Webb's doing pretty much everything that they do, because in spring, or really at any point during practice, even during the regular season, quarterbacks don't get hit. They have on a different colored jersey. They don't, the rushers have to stop. You don't even want those guys touched. So Davis Webb's got a full dose of what Tech's doing this spring. Patrick Mahomes got a full dose of what Tech's doing this spring. And it'll be, you'll see a lot of both of those guys. And I think, the interesting thing is Cliff Kingsbury told me before spring practice started, he said, I'm not just going to draw this thing out just because, to build suspense or what have you. If one guy's clearly better than the other in the spring, then I'll name him the starting quarterback after spring. So so I think he's put a little more onus on both of those guys, a little more pressure on both of those guys to be good these last few weeks and this next week and a half, next couple of weeks before spring ends. So this will be your opportunity to kind of see what they've accomplished so far.
And lastly, Don, do you want to talk a little bit about the offense?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the offensive line. I think one of the things that'll be interesting to watch on Saturday is going to be the offensive line, but also the right side of the offensive line in particular, because you have a couple of guys there who were signed 13, 14 months ago. You have Robert Castaneda at right guard, and you have Justin Murphy at right tackle, and that's been primarily your first team right side of the offensive line this spring. Justin Murphy's there because he's your future right tackle. I think he's the guy that you're going to see run out with the first team offense on September 5th when Tech takes on Sam Houston State in the season opener. He's your guy. He's the guy that they've kind of
they have been building up a lot about him.
Yeah, Lee Hayes has talked real strongly about him really from the day that he walked in the door. He's also gained some pounds. He's 6'7". He's up to close to 300 pounds now, so he's gained about 25 or so pounds. And Robert Castaneda is another guy that Lee Hayes really likes, but he's benefited this spring from another player's misfortune. Balin Brown, who's a regular guy, starter, recovering from shoulder surgery, and so that's enabled Robert Castaneda to step in there at right guard, and you have those two freshmen. And these guys are the future. I mean, this time next year, Raven Clark's going to be gone, Alfredo Morales is going to be gone, and Jared Castor is going to be gone. So these young offensive linemen are going to be, they're the guys that you're going to have to build around going forward, them and Balin Brown coming back. So it'll be, this will be our chance to kind of see that the toughness that Lee Hayes talks about when he discusses Justin Murphy and Robert Castaneda, and also what are these guys' strengths? Are they going to be good pass protectors for Mahomes and Webb? Can they, are they there yet as run blockers for DeAndre Washington, Justin Stockton, and those guys? And it's going to be, the other thing too is Cliff Kingsbury is going to put the ones against the ones in I think a big chunk of this scrimmage. So you're going to see Castaneda and Murphy are going to have their hands full because they're going to be going against guys like Brandon Jackson or Pete Robertson in Murphy's case, and in Castaneda's case, going to be going against your first team defensive tackles. So it'll be interesting to see how well they're able to hold up against much more experienced defensive linemen.
And of course, check out all of our coverage from the spring game on RedRaiders.com and LubbockOnline.com. Oh, wait. Okay, Dawn's coverage, and then you were going to kick to me. Okay.
Just, say what you said, and say, Don will be doing the stories, and I'll say, and Shannon will be doing the video.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1. And of course, you can check out all of our coverage from the spring game on RedRaiders.com and LubbockOnline.com. Dawn will be doing all the words.
And Shannon will be producing some great videos.
Of course, and we'll see you next time.